All right, here we go. Thursday night. DC and the Sunshine Man back. Lot to get to, Dave. Lot to get to. First of all, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine. Enjoying the hockey and the hoops. Good time of year.
Okay, I'm going to take a left turn right off the bat because I like leaning on you for topics that require a little more wisdom, a little more age, right?
All right.
And I just wanted to ask you in general, because I know you follow news and you know what's going on in the world on the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We can see kind of the state we're in this country where a large number of people on social media, it's their chatter about the invasion is not so much about the people on the ground in Ukraine or what the Russians are doing. It is whose fault is it in the U.S.? Who caused this? And I was thinking, listen, I wasn't around for the Vietnam War. I was, when I was born, in 1970, and it lasted until 74, 75. You were around when people were fighting. Thank God there was no social media back then. You were around in the 60s, but especially late 60s, early 70s. And it seemed like there were sides on whether we should be there or whether we shouldn't be there.
Yes.
Well, take us through, like, does back then feel like today?
No.
It's different because this is to me is like you're picking sides. I don't know. I thought about picking sides in a war. So what do you think?
No. Because back then it was a generational thing, mostly. My generation thought anybody over 30 was an idiot. Right. But it wasn't a party politics thing, and now it's strictly a party politics type of thing. You have to be on one side or the other, which kind of screws me up because I'm not really on either side.
What do you think is worse, a generational split or this kind of arbitrary split based on politics?
Oh, I think I think worse is now, because eventually it took really the Kent State thing, but the older generation started coming around after that.
Right.
It's like, oh shit, maybe we need to get out of there. This tribal stuff is not doing us any good.
Well, that's a good way to put it.
Not to dwell on it for long, but
yeah,
it just what troubles me is that, in my opinion, both parties have been taken over by the fringe. That's not good because neither fringe represents the majority of us. The majority of us either lean left or lean right, but we're pretty much in the middle. And there's just not a lot of representation for people in the middle anymore. It's troubling.
It certainly puts, we talked about this on the air a bunch, it certainly puts Russian and Ukrainian athletes who compete in the United States and North America in weird positions. You've got as extreme, and by extreme, I mean, like, he made a statement on, being pro-Putin years ago. Ovechkin is in a weird position. Yeah. Then you've got other Russians like Dadanov on VGK. Do we want to know what he thinks? Like, I don't know. If I was playing abroad, I'd be like, I don't know that I really want to comment on President Trump or Biden or U.S. issues. Maybe I would want to just be left alone. Then, obviously, there's a lot of Ukrainian athletes at the highest level. So now you've got the awkwardness of that. So from the sports world standpoint, it's a massive story.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I can't offer much on it because I have no military expertise. I'm not going to pretend I do. If I want military expertise, I'll go to Facebook, where the former Facebook medical community has now shifted gears, and they are now military.
Right. Right.
Get all the knowledge you need at
Facebook. You know that Vitaly Klitschko is the mayor of, I keep wanting to call it Kiev, but Kyiv.
Yeah, it was Kiev when we were growing up.
Yes. Yes.
Now it's Kyiv, I believe. Yes.
Brady brings up a good point. You've got UFC fighters stuck in Ukraine trying to get out. I saw a story today from our buddy in Albuquerque, Jeff Grammer, that one of their former big men
I read that.
Joe Firstinger was in Ukraine, and there's a lot of basketball players in that, American basketball players, non-Ukrainian, non-Russian basketball players in Ukraine. I mean, this is a real life thing.
Might need to go someplace else as quickly as possible.
Right. So interesting. I just wanted to kind of reflect back, and there are so many times I think of what division is like now and what division was like back, from 60 to.
I can't imagine what it would have been like in the Vietnam era had there been social media.
Oh my God.
Oh. Because look, social media obviously has a lot of great benefits, but nothing's perfect, and there are drawbacks to social media, and they really show themselves whenever anything controversial takes place.
Right. Well, and people are monetizing division. They're playing characters on each side. The spread of info or disinformation back then was nowhere near what it could be now.
It's way worse now.
I hadn't even thought of this. F1 drivers immediately boycotting race in Russia. I know they moved the Champion League final out of there. Cam Fletcher saying, he was in Ukraine back in 2004. I love that place. So it's pretty friggin' tragic. Real tragic. Did you?
What's scary is that, Taiwan could be next.
I've seen people say that, yeah. Kind of the same setup, right?
I don't know if it is or not, because look, and again, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but we are so reliant on China for like everything in our house. I don't know if the same thing takes place, which seems like it might. I have a feeling we're not going to be as vocal about criticizing them.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of pathetic.
We've already seen it with the Hong Kong situation.
Right.
Like,
We'll mind our own business.
Yeah. Because, and let's face it, I mean, obviously, and I love fuel stuff with Russia, but, I mean, this whole house is made in China. So is yours. So is everybody else's. It's a different situation.
I'm going to say something ridiculous, and I know your answer is no, but I think it's funny, so I'm going to reference it. Did you see the video by O.J. Simpson talking about being tough on the Russians, but also if you want to be tough on the Russians, then you can't piss and moan when gas prices go up? O.J. put out a video because, I don't know if you know this, but O.J. was finally allowed to leave the state, which I was hoping with that freedom he'd leave permanently, but he didn't.
Not really.
He was in Florida for 3 weeks, and he said, hey, I was playing golf. I guess it was yesterday, the day before, because he said it was snowing. He laughed about that, and he's like, my group of guys that I play with, we were talking about the most important story out there, and that was the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And he started to explain, their need or desire for dropping the hammer on Russia, but then wanting to blame high gas prices on something else. So,
well, I know whenever I need to know what's going on in the world, I want to check out OJ. No, I had not seen that video, and I won't be looking for any OJ videos or.
I know.
I don't really care what he has to say.
I know you think he's gross, but he actually is he's a fascinating character. One, in that he believes that people care what he thinks or care about what he thinks. And two, that you see the life he's living.
I know.
Every time I see it, I'm like, son of a bitch. He's got enough money that he can play golf every day. He's living on the outskirts of town where it does snow when it's cold. I don't. Like, what has happened here, OJ?
Well, that's if you're a football hero. A lot gets forgiven.
Yeah, somehow. I wonder how many times it hits him. Like, God damn, man, I got away with it. Or has he just like compartmentalized this whole thing? It's just somewhere in the back of his brain.
His mind doesn't work like most people's. I think that's safe to say.
That is the mind of a sociopath. You can just move on and operate like it's all normal.
It is for him, I guess.
Yep.
This is where I have to disconnect with fans, though. It kind of goes back to Michael Jackson. You can still be a fan of his music, just as I was a big fan of OJ's football prowess. He was great. But you don't have to like the guy. Doesn't mean he's a great guy. Okay? It's kind of why I got when the original flap with Ruggs took place, Ruggs and myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I got crushed by Raider fans. Absolutely crushed. It's like, because he's wearing a Raider uniform, I'm automatically the bad guy? What the fuck is wrong with you people?
And that all went back to you finding out that he had, basically stiffed on a tip with a big group.
$10 on a $600 tab.
Right. You never mentioned his name.
I never mentioned his name.
Which is fascinating. Then he basically admitted guilt.
Right.
By going after you. And yes, you were basically the discussion was, what sort of low character, clueless dude do you have to be, as Henry Ruggs? People crush you, and then it's not vindication. You don't want the guy to fucking kill somebody. But in the end, you're like, never imagined this happening. But
well, and I look, it was, you can say it was a lucky guess, but when I talked to someone who was involved in that restaurant, the night the $10 tip on the $600 tab occurred, I mentioned to this person what had happened with the auto accident, and they said right away, "Oh, it had to be Ruggs." Just because a guy wears a uniform for a team doesn't mean you have to be a fan of him off the field. You can be a fan of him on the field.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching Ruggs on the field. I mean, he's a very explosive receiver. Was improving in terms of running his routes. If he gets a step on you, see you later. I mean, his speed was incredible. But that doesn't mean he's a great guy off the field. And I never understood why people have blind loyalty to players just because they wear a particular uniform.
Yep.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
Did you get wind of Adam Hill and John Jones, the UFC fighter? I don't know if you saw the story yesterday from Adam.
Well, I did not see Adam's story, but I'm aware of what's going on with Jones.
So Adam and the paper worked really hard to get the video of the incident that happened about 6 months ago, where alleged domestic violence issue at Caesars with John Jones and his fiance and his kids, who he was terrorizing. They're the ones who actually had to call security, call in some help, and the story 6 months ago, according to the police report, said John Jones got violent. He was obnoxious and calling the cops names. Then eventually he headbutted a car.
Right. Saw that.
So they got the video. They put out the clip, and John Jones, along with many of his fans, were mad at Adam on social media, saying, "Why did you put this video out?" John Jones basically suggested that you're ruining my life. Now she has left me because of this video.
Huh.
And there are fans who are like, "Adam, you're an asshole." What?
Yeah, it's Adam's fault.
Yeah. But again, it plays to the worship of athletes.
Yeah. That's always existed to some extent.
Yeah.
So I'm not suggesting it's anything new. In fact, you can make a good case that back in the old days, a lot of things were covered up and never went public. So that players were more admired then in proportion to to where they might be now, where we do see their flaws now. Yep. We didn't back then. I mean, there was some. I was around a few. Yeah. And these guys.
Fixers and helpers in all towns around athletes.
Oh boy.
Right?
Yep.
But in the end, a lot of these athletes can put the public that they're around in danger. And that's when it hits home, So all that Ruggs stuff, he wound up killing one of our locals. And in the case of John Jones, he's had multiple incidents of hurting this woman that he's with. He's had multiple driving incidents too.
Yeah. Yep.
Where, he hit a pregnant woman and then fled the scene. And I think people look at sports, Dave, a lot of times, and they just think it's like it's just a TV show. Like it's not, it can't hit home. But when you live around Aaron Hernandez, when you live around Henry Ruggs, John Jones, you can name the others. You are legitimately in danger if you cross their path on a bad day for them and a really bad day for you.
Yeah, there's no question about it. But it's one thing I'll say for myself is, and I guess I got help along the way because I grew up around a pro hockey team. So you saw they were just normal guys who happened to be good at hockey. I never had the hero worship thing. I was never I got to have posters of this guy on the wall and stuff like that. The only posters I had on the wall were there was a time frame where I was putting up these centerfolds from
Sure.
Playboy.
Yes.
In my bedroom. I'm not sure that went over real well in the house, but
Yeah.
well, I don't think my dad minded, and my mom never said anything. So, and then they came down eventually.
Sure. Hero worship for Farrah Fawcett.
Joe Collins, actually.
Is that right? Okay.
She's my favorite of all time.
She was a hot number back in the
Oh
day.
my God, she was incredible.
Adam Cruz said Jones runs our city in the ABQ or the Berkey. Super awesome dude in person when he's sober. I've actually been around him when he's sober. He's not always a super awesome person. He can be an incredibly condescending and arrogant person and a douchebag to people. So, but I mean, I've also been around him when he's been pretty nice. And I will say, as time went along and he got more money and more fame, he did change. So,
It does change some people.
yeah, yep. Raphael says it'll be interesting to see how people now, if Babe Ruth was still living, lots of historians say he was an awful person, especially when he was drinking. So, yeah.
Yeah, those stories are pretty well known that when he got tanked, he wasn't a lot of fun to be around.
Yeah.
On the
Imagine
the flip side is that he could be a great guy when he was sober.
right.
But
Were there reports that Ty Cobb was ever a great guy?
no.
Okay.
Not that I know. And yet now the flip side of it is he befriended a lot of guys who fell on hard times after baseball.
Okay.
Because he was really rich. I mean, he did very well with his off the field investments. And he was wealthy. And he did help a lot of guys who'd gone broke. So even people with a lot of flaws have some good side to them, and vice versa.
Boy, I don't want to open this Pandora's box, but we never talked about it. Is the Baseball Hall of Fame voting now based on whether a guy was nice to you?
I think
Barry
it's got to do with it.
Barry Bonds versus David Ortiz?
Well, to me, Bonds, you've got the drug thing. So, I mean, that seems to be a dividing line.
But so does Ortiz.
Well, but he was only mentioned in the Mitchell report, which wasn't supposed to be public anyway, and he never tested positive.
Actually, but Ortiz eventually leaked as being one of the positives in the test behind the scenes that was going to kick in drug testing or not. A-Rod was implicated in that as well. Now A-Rod had problems after that. I mean, I guess you're right. It was so big, Bonds and Balco, that Ortiz and a note being released, 14 years later didn't hit as hard. But
plus the fact that there were so many players on that list. I mean, it's like half of baseball was on that list.
On the Ortiz list,
Bonds had the nerve to break some of the most hallowed records out there,
right.
And it was more. And let's face it was more obvious.
Oh, Dave, I think they're both obvious. I mean, do you
body type? He just got bigger as he got older.
I think Ortiz was probably going to be, one of these dudes who bounced around at DH, as a kind of a specialist from the left side, hitting 20 homers and hitting 260, and then he turned into. I mean, I guess it's all relative. Like in a lot of ways, I think I'm more insulted by the guy who was a good player who became great than the great player who became superhuman.
Well, but Ortiz remained great for many years. And Bonds was great before this all happened. Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. I think the division's more telling with Schilling, he is absolutely not in because of his politics. There is no denying that. you cannot make a legitimate case for him not being in the Hall of Fame on credentials. He's not in because of his politics. And in the last year of eligibility, he asked people not to vote for him.
Right.
Okay. Well, he gave him an excuse there. I thought Schilling on the field, and I don't care what his politics are, because they have nothing to do with his performance on the field. That's the Hall of Fame is about performance on the field. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't think he'll get in even on the Veterans Committee.
Which isn't right. If you think he has the credentials, and I think he falls short, but if his political leanings and statements are making the decision for people, that should not be a factor.
But that has become a factor in everyday life now, and that's not going to change. I mean, it shouldn't be, but it is, and I don't know that that's going to change, because look, let's face it, we a lot of our celebrity likes and dislikes now are not based on how they perform on film or TV. It's what they have to say when the camera's not on. Well, I'm not going to watch her or him because they feel this way and I feel that way. Kind of stupid. You know, it's kind of like I was never in line with John Wayne's politics. But I loved watching his movies. Still do.
You know what? I'm actually glad you kind of came full circle there without even really trying, because you mentioned Michael Jackson earlier. What about Cosby? Can you watch the Cosby Show or a Cosby comedy special and not feel kind of like, oh shit?
Well, I can't answer that because I never thought he was that funny. Okay. Sorry, just wasn't my type of humor.
Yeah.
And I don't watch TV shows, so I never saw the Cosby Show. So I don't know anything about, other than the name was Huxtable. That's all I know about it.
Right.
But I was never a Bill Cosby fan. I just didn't care for his politics. I didn't care for his comedy. I don't care what his, obviously I'm not a fan of what he's done off stage, but it doesn't change anything as far as I'm concerned for him.
God, I'm trying to think of the.
I still think, he stopped being funny a few years ago. But Dennis Miller, I thought Dennis Miller was a really funny guy, and then he's gotten so caught up in displaying superior intellect.
Right.
He kind of stopped being funny.
Right.
It's like, can you get the punchline out there eventually?
Well, it's interesting on John Wayne. I like Westerns. I haven't gone back and watched a lot of old Westerns, but for some reason I went down a rabbit hole like a month ago and I watched the original True Grit.
Yeah.
And he was in it, and I thought he was funny, and I thought his what the hell was his name, like Rooster Cogburn. Yeah, I thought he was good. I thought the young lady who played. By the way, if I tell you why I watched the movie, the girl who played the main character. This is so bad. I started watching a lot of old Love Boats, and she was on a Love Boat like 10 years later. I'm like, who is this lady? And then I saw it in the John Wayne movie, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch it and see what it. But I got to tell you, Dave, with John Wayne, like I have trouble with him because I think he is the ultimate hypocrite, like on a gross level. So I guess we can all make our decisions on this stuff. If we're gonna get overly opinionated on someone because of the way they operate away from the screen, but some of the stuff that came out about him.
How can you not like Rio Bravo?
I haven't seen it. I guess I'll go back and watch it.
Rio Bravo's great.
It's hard for me. For me, it's hard. The thing I think about
Angie Dickinson.
The thing I think about with him is I'm watching a movie tough guy who in real life really was kind of a pussy and a bully. So that's where I have a little bit of trouble meshing it. So maybe I need to get over that.
The real life John Wayne was Ted Williams, though.
How so?
Well, Ted Williams really was a war hero.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like, okay, I get it. Yeah. Like he walked the walk, because now, I mean, real briefly on John Wayne, it's one thing to, if you want to be a chicken hawk, that's fine. But he was a chicken hawk who went on the offensive and called other people, unpatriotic. And it's like, dude, you you bowed out of service all these times, and you're this big tough guy on film, and then you terrorized others who actually served.
Yeah, I've always looked askance with people who later in life claimed to be great patriots and took every draft deferment they could get
Of
along
course.
the way. And I'm not talking about just one guy, by the way. If you think I'm
No,
pointing just in one direction, I'm not,
no,
because the others do the same thing.
no,
Okay.
no.
I never had to worry about a deferment, so I can call the kettle black.
Right.
Now, had I been a couple of years older, I don't know what I would have done. But I was never in that situation. I was in the draft lottery, in the lottery for a couple of years, and I got lucky in the lottery. I got like number 300 and something. So unless there was a world war, I wasn't going to get drafted. So I was like,
Right.
okay. But I never knocked. See, this is the thing. I never knocked the people who took the draft deferments in the '60s. I mean, they were eligible to take them. Why not?
Yeah.
Okay. But don't come across years later and talk about what a great patriot you are, because you're kind of not. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're full of shit.
Right. You chose your path.
Yeah.
You don't get to reinvent the story
Right.
and attack others as if you're some sort of warrior. So,
And again, I'm not pointing to just the one guy who was rather obvious on that,
yes.
because the others pretty much did. They all did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So, to Cam's point, John Wayne really was a great actor. So, we all bought that he was
a great actor.
a big, no, but the fact that we all bought that he was a big tough guy. So,
Well, he was on stage. He was.
no, on stage he was acting.
He was great on
Yeah.
stage. His movies were fun. They were a blast. Okay. And his last film, I think, might have been his best performance, The Shootist, where he plays an old gunslinger who's dying of cancer, and interestingly enough, it kind of mirrored his real life. There's one true to life performance, I guess you could say. A great film.
I was just looking something up because I had seen a plaque on the wall about this, that the Misfits was Marilyn Monroe's last movie,
Yes.
and it was filmed in and around Reno. So I
Yeah.
was in Reno the other night, and some one of the old school places had a sign up. Marilyn Monroe was in it. I'm trying to think who else was in it, but that's another one I got to check out. There were some legendary actors and actresses in it.
Geez, why can't I remember? It was Clark Gable in that?
Yep, it was Clark Gable.
Yeah, okay, and I can't remember the third and fourth
That's funny.
characters. I haven't seen the movie for a long time. It was a good film. I think it's a little bit overrated, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah. 1961. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, by the way, that's another topic for another day. Going to Reno the other day. Oh boy, they were hit hard by COVID. Real hard.
Really?
It is. I mean, I know people mock on it. People down here mock on Reno as being a shithole. There's actually a lot of fun things you can do, and it's kind of an old school Vegas. But they closed one of the big casinos downtown, and it is just like it has crushed the downtown. I thought it was just so dead. Even though it's a weekday, it was so dead. They've got all these buildings that are just shuttered up, like old legendary buildings all around downtown. Like they got to get an infusion of money to reinvent the town and get some investing. I mean, it was bad. So
I actually always liked Reno.
yeah, I think it's fine.
When I was doing the Top Rank shows, the Peppermill was a regular location for their fights.
Yeah,
and I enjoyed the hotel. The restaurants were good.
Yeah. I like the Peppermill.
Yeah, it was a good spot.
Yep, right up the road from the Atlantis, and so that's a little, it's a little ways down Virginia. But yeah, it was kind of sad, in and around downtown. So let's talk a little college basketball first. Did you bet anything tonight? You bet Gonzaga?
I did well tonight. Interestingly, I lost 2 hockey games,
Yeah.
but I won 2 college basketball games. I had Eastern Washington and College of Charleston, and they were both dogs and both won outright. So it was an enjoyable night in college basketball. Wish I'd have bet them on the money line, but I'll take the wins. And I'm getting set for March Madness, which is, you know,
Right.
a more normal March Madness this year.
Yep.
Thank goodness.
Well, the tournaments, we're gonna have like a week and a half of tournaments here, 5 of them. That's gonna be awesome.
Yep.
Fans back in, the fans from out of town back, and hopefully some fans locally show up. That'll be
Yeah,
cool.
I'm sure the Orleans has already
Oh,
got 9 million reservations from Spokane.
that
Because
and the fact that I mean they're killing everyone in the conference, but the right to play them in the finals is going to be extremely competitive because there's a bunch of good teams in the West Coast Conference.
There are. St. Mary's is the second best team, but anything can happen in the tournaments. But if you want a fun place, look, some fan bases are okay, and then there are some that are outstanding. Gonzaga is outstanding plus. Their fans have a great time while they're here. They're so friendly. You can generalize on some fan bases, and I guess that's what I'm doing. But the Gonzaga fans, I mean, they're just terrific, and they will pack the Orleans. So if you want to go to Fridays, you better have a reservation.
Yeah, San Fran hung with them a little bit, wound up losing by 16.
Which isn't bad.
Yeah, boy, Holmgren's coming together. 21 and 15 tonight.
Yeah. There's so much talent in that team.
Yep.
And it's going to be tough for them not to make the Final Four. After that, you don't know. But they're roughly good.
I was watching Arizona before we started the podcast, and I got to see Arizona up close at the beginning of the year at T-Mobile, and I was super impressed. A really big, strong team, and I thoroughly enjoyed them watching them smack around Michigan because Hunter Dickinson loves to, flex and fucking talk trash. And against Gonzaga, they freaking mauled him. Like, he looked like a weakling. They're up 70-48 right now in Utah on the road. Utah they don't have the roster, Utah.
No, it's going to take a while to rebuild.
And let me see where Kerr Krissa is now. All right, so he stopped. He had, I think this is well in the first half. He had 21 in the first half, and he went 7 of 8 from 3. There's still 10 minutes left in the game. 7 of 8 from 3. And I was starting to think, between UCLA and Gonzaga and Arizona, the West really has a chance here, as long as these coaches are in place, to start exerting some dominance on the national scene in terms of making Final Fours and winning national championships.
It's not like football.
No.
Where, the insults that fly toward the Pac-12, unfortunately, they're legitimate. But in basketball, I don't think what we saw last spring was a fluke. I think the Pac-12 is better than people think it is.
Those 3 programs, UCLA, Gonzaga, Arizona, next 5 years, who do you think has the best potential to win a national title?
I'd say Gonzaga because it's become a destination school.
Right.
Probably UCLA right behind it because I think Mick Cronin's really good.
Okay.
And I think he's going to start getting some great players.
Yeah. I actually think, and it's a little bold right now because we've only seen this guy with other, another dude's players. I actually think Arizona, this hire has turned out to be so brilliant because he's off the Gonzaga staff. I think Arizona, well, this is not anything bold. Arizona is an easier place to recruit to than Spokane. It just
a nicer place. I can say that.
Yes, I think it would be a more desirable place to go to school. And the other thing is, by hiring the assistant, they do cut into Gonzaga's game a little bit. And I believe Gonzaga's game is, 1, they're great with transfers. 2, and something no one ever talks about, Dave, or very few people talk about, Gonzaga has built so much of their dominance on the international market, right? And Tommy Lloyd is into the international market. It just so happens he walked into a situation where Sean Miller was already building a team that was very international. And when I talk about the international market, something that has been covered with Gonzaga is, while we're watching what happens with 4 and 5 stars in the U.S., and you raise an eyebrow and you're like, ooh, I wonder how this school got that guy. Gonzaga got guys for years, and it was like, well, we know Domantas Sabonis is, the son of a great international player, but I don't know that he was recruited as heavily with, we'll say, the resources that all the top schools have as others, right? Like as true as American 4 and 5 stars. Rui Hachimura is another great example, right? And if you remember back, Arizona was, I think, second on both of those guys. So Arizona knows how to play the game. The international market has so many good players, and I'll say I don't think it's regulated. It's not under the microscope as much as the American players. So the fact that they stole a Gonzaga guy, that's who he wants to recruit. It'll be interesting who wins the battles for those international players. And by the way, I mean, Gonzaga also built a lot, getting players out of Canada, and I think Tommy Lloyd will be good at doing that too.
I think they'll both be okay.
Oh, I'm not. No, what I'm saying is, I mean, it is like when you made your list, it's like UCLA is a friggin' awesome place to recruit to. And I think of all the guys, you're always going to get good defense from Cronin teams.
Yep.
No, that's why they're all these. If they keep it together, these are superpowers potentially of college basketball. As, by the way, the old guys move on. Tom Izzo is going to go bye-bye at some point. North Carolina just had the switch. Coach K is going to be done. Boeheim is not much to look at right now, but Boeheim is going to be done.
The ACC it's no longer the elite conference.
Yep. So
the ACC, they might only get 3 or 4 teams. Not a great league this year.
No, and it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of threats in that conference to really make a deep run either.
Duke is, but they're not even going to be. Duke's not going to be a number 1 seed unless something goes a little haywire down the stretch.
Nope.
And meanwhile, the conference out here is having a great season. It's a renaissance for the Mountain West.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. But it all came together, and you're looking at this conference tournament. It's a 7-team toss-up because UNLV is in the mix now.
Yeah.
This could be one of the best tournaments in the country.
Most wide open. I think the reason the Mountain West is doing well is they had some teams that grew old together.
Yep.
And it's definitely CSU. This has been building for 3 years with CSU. Boise has had a couple of years to grow old together. Wyoming, the coach is just great, and I don't know how the hell he's recruiting Wyoming, but brilliant job. He's done he's done really well. And San Diego State just keep putting out the same exact team, and it's consistent every year. Fresno, I will say because he's brought the defense there, and he's got a great player. They really, I'm not going to say lucked into it. UNLV really fucking blew it on Orlando Robinson. That's one of the real bad recruiting moves by Marvin Menzies team. He missed on him. They have to get a couple of offensive guys at Fresno to play at kind of the next level. But yeah, talk about UNLV because I know
this is fun.
They've been like a friggin' thorn in your side, right, from a betting standpoint.
Yeah, although I think I finally caught on.
Okay.
Kevin's doing a tremendous job.
Yeah.
And the scheme he came up with defensively last week against Colorado State was outstanding. He kept rotating fresh bodies on CSU's best player, Roddy.
Yep.
Roddy had a lousy game, and they killed him.
And by the way, the rotation it's not just, hey, let's rotate 3 bigs on him. It's big. It's small forward. It's little guard. It's back to big. So Roddy throughout the game is like, I don't know where my sweet spot is.
Yeah, that was brilliant. And then the other night, close game at halftime, and I don't know if I tweeted it. No, I think I sent a text to somebody that said this game's over because Kruger versus Alford is a mismatch. I got Alford right. He's not that good. He never was. And
how do you think it's a mismatch?
I think Kevin is way more technically sound. In-game decision making.
Mm-hmm.
He's already like a veteran. He kind of he got some good lessons along the way, I think.
Yeah.
But he is a brilliant young coach. And UNLV is going to become relevant again as long as he's here. And hopefully Kevin's going to be here for a long time. Now that is going to be interesting. He's got ties to Las Vegas.
Uh-huh.
He's got ties to UNLV.
Yep.
But make no mistake, 2 years from now, Kevin's going to get a really big offer. Big school.
If they're at 17 and 11 and 9 and 6, if they win 2 of 3, and if one of the two has to be, if they beat Boise or Wyoming, right?
Yep.
And they take out New Mexico, and they get a win in the conference tournament, which will be tough if they're the 5 seed because they're going to have to play San Diego State or CSU. But if they get to 20 wins and they'll have finished 11-7 in conference, that's a really good opening year with mostly a brand new team. And also the best recruiting job they did was, Bryce was ready to go somewhere and potentially win, and somehow they got him back. Can I tell you this? The scary thing in the offseason, and I don't want to freak people out, is that Arizona State could be open and Kansas State could be open. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Kansas State's a little scarier for obvious tie-in reasons.
Yep.
I don't think you'll go anywhere this quickly. I really don't think he'd consider it, to be honest with you. I think he wants to accomplish something here.
Yeah.
After that, I don't think Kevin's going to be a lifer here.
Well, unfortunately,
that's just the reality of the situation is that if he's as good as it appears he is, he's going to get monster offers down the road. But Kansas State, Arizona State, I don't think they're,
I agree. I think they would have to blow him away, like literally get to like $2.5 or $3 million.
Yeah, and I also think it would have to be, okay, let's say 3 years down the road, Tom Izzo decides to pack it in.
Right.
Michigan State says, let's go after Kevin Kruger.
Right.
All right, now we might be looking at something, but I don't think we have to worry about him going anywhere until I think he wants to get the team to the NCAA tournament and get them back on some kind of a national. I'm not talking about a top 10 or anything like that, but I think back on the national scene. And I think then maybe he'll consider something. But I don't think Kevin's going to be moved. And again, I don't know Kevin outside of casually. And but we know what it took to get Lon out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, he turned down Oklahoma like 5 times before he finally threw so much money at him he couldn't say no. I think that Kevin's going to be here for a while. So
I also I get the idea that when it comes to the coaching situation, that the UNLV community, and by the community I mean the money that could step up to close a gap, has probably learned the lesson that you can't just go and think you're just going to buy someone who's going to match the UNLV program.
Right.
And if Kevin was winning at a high level and got him back to the NCAAs, I think there'd be an emotional tie to him where it would be a lot easier to get a lot more money if needed.
Yes, I agree with that.
I don't think that was going to be the case with Marvin. I doubt it would with TJ because I don't think TJ came across as, a guy that
I think we all knew he was going to.
Yeah.
He was here for short term.
Kevin Kruger is super likable, and obviously the ties to his dad, the fact that he played here. I could see, if all of a sudden it looked like, hey, there's too much money, that people would step up and go, no, we're not losing him. So
right.
But you know what? Here's the thing.
But in any case, it's fun. It's fun to be talking UNLV again.
Yes.
It's been a while. I mean, we were getting good players under Dave Rice, but the pieces didn't come together.
Right.
They haven't since Lon left.
Right.
It's exciting again.
Yep.
UNLV might not. I mean, they might not get to a tournament this year, but I think everybody's looking at next year, going, "Okay, this is going to be fun." Even without Bryce, who's been phenomenal, but he's getting good players in, and they're clearly buying what he's selling, and I think he's going to get even more good players in the offseason.
And that's why I wanted to go back to you. You made the point about Alford versus Kruger in terms of a mismatch.
Right.
I think Kevin's a really good X's and O's guy. I think the other thing that's clear with Alford versus Kruger is that Kruger's players have really played hard for him and played hard for the coaches, and everything has not gone right this year. Guys have had to play all different positions, play hurt. Like Donovan Williams right now, he's not right.
No.
I think he feels, hey, I want to play for Coach Kruger. Vic Iwako, as we're pronouncing it now, he hasn't been right the entire season, and he might have jacked up his hamstring the other night a little bit, and he wants to go in. Guys are playing with bumps and bruises. And for the most part, they've had like maybe 3 games where they got overwhelmed and they just didn't. They kind of bailed for 10 minutes at the end of the game. But beyond that, man, they've. I'll tell you when the team went up to Colorado State and they had just lost to San Diego State 80-55. That was the game where they bailed.
Yeah, the second half was not good.
They got broken. Then they find out Donovan Williams isn't going to be available. I think someone else was limited going into that, or Josh Baker couldn't make the trip. And I remember the vibe around the team. I'm like, I feel like these guys aren't going to be able to get off the deck emotionally. And then they went out and they played their asses off. And then Bryce, of course, played otherworldly. But I thought they were in trouble there. And that, to me, that was really impressive that they gotten to a point where they've had a lot of adversity. And they're like, no, you know what? Fuck this. We can come together and we can win these games. So there hasn't been any quit. And I guess when a coach gets guys to play hard for him in those bad circumstances, I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah.
And Alford, I don't think his players like him. I don't think his style is meshing with this group. And I don't think they quit the other night in the second half. I think they got really tired. And when it was time to kind of push through the exhaustion, I don't know that they looked over to the sideline and are like, nah. But I think there's a little bit of that with Reno.
Yep, so do I. But, this is one I got right. I don't get them all right. But I didn't like the hire when it got made. And they're back to pre-Musselman level now. They're not a very good team.
And by the way, that's the other thing. I don't feel bad for Reno often, but they sold a lot of tickets.
Yeah.
They reported 91,48, and that place can hold 10,700. There were less than 5,000 there. And I even took a picture and put up on social media.
I saw it, yeah.
There was a kid, with something about Muss. There's just not like Muss is like he might be a little bit phony, but he comes across as relatable. He's likable. He's a little aggressive lunatic. Like people loved him there.
Yeah.
And the energy, it's not there with Alford. It's not winning. It's not just winning and losing. It's a different connection with the fans.
Yeah. The good news is they're going to get worse than football.
Whew, man. That's another
in a hurry.
That's another situation where, like, how the hell do they get out of the hole? They just got punched in the face by their former coach, just going, you guys don't care enough about football. You don't have the money. Can't do this.
No. It's going to be a difficult year athletically for the Wolfpack. I'm sure those of us in Las Vegas are just heartbroken about that.
Right.
We might start being able to refer to them as the school up north again. That'll make Mike Sanford happy.
Oh my God. All right, Dave, let's close on this a couple minutes. So I on Cofield and Company, we basically banned all baseball talk with the lockout. I'm like, fuck them. I'm not following this day to day. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing the up and down emotional thing. You love baseball. You love it a lot more than I do. You like betting it. You played fantasy baseball, but as you told us, your fantasy baseball league, the long one, dissolved over the bullshit of the shortened season and all that stuff.
It looks like it'll survive, but
yeah,
not what it was.
So where are you right now? Aren't you living?
Where am I? Is this? And I have followed it very closely, which I suspect most fans haven't. The owners have already won this, and they still are locking out the players. They're trying to break the union. This is if you haven't been following it closely, don't try and take sides of players versus owners. There's only one side in this. It's the players are right. The owners are dead wrong. And again, I have followed it very closely. And I know what the negotiation issues are. The owners have basically won it already, and they still won't end the lockout.
So explain to me, what does that mean they've won it? What concessions did they get, or what desires did they achieve?
They're getting almost nothing. Okay? I mean, in a nutshell. They weren't asking for that much. This is, to me, the only way to read this is a blatant attempt to break the union. And I think they're willing to sacrifice. I said this, I might have said this last week. I think they're willing to sacrifice the season to try and bust the union. Because that way the players, they are of the belief the players will cave in. And they might be right.
Yeah. You tell me because you follow it. I haven't seen, one of the bigger problems with these labor disputes is a player or two or many of them stepping out of line and saying something stupid that makes them kind of hateable to the fans. Have the players mostly stuck together in public?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean the better feud now is golf,
Oh, boy.
where Mickelson tried to get out, basically tried to get back in the good graces,
Yep.
and now Greg Norman comes out with this thing today, and
Yep.
it's like, oh boy, that's
Uh-huh.
personally, I have no sympathy for Mickelson because a lot of us in Las Vegas have the same
We know.
opinion on him.
We know you, Phil.
Yes, and Greg Norman, quite frankly, is staying in character.
Yep. Well, they're especially in the case of Mickelson, when you make a big mistake and then you claim, I was doing it for the fellas, and then the fellas look at you and you're like, you've never done anything for us, fuckhead. Now we're going to believe that you're with us? Like, no. We know what you were doing. We knew the whole time.
Like, hey, look, I don't know many golfers. In fact, now I basically know none because the few guys I did know are super seniors or they're not playing anymore. Okay, but I can tell you this: Tiger, for all his, he might have had flaws here and there, very well liked by most of the players. Got along great with all the players. Phil, not so much. Okay, so it's really not all that shocking that Phil tried to make this move to Saudi Arabia, and Tiger wouldn't have done that in a million years.
It was also the way he did it, where he explains it. He's like, "Hey, I know they're horrific and they murder a guy, and I'm a little scared. They're a little creepy, but the PGA. I mean, this is a means to an end. We gotta fight the PGA. Like, wait, you can't just brush off how awful Saudi Arabia is and say, well, it's a means to an end.
By the way,
I can deal with it.
What's wrong with the PGA? I don't know what's wrong with it. What's wrong with it? The sport is gaining in popularity again. Players are making money. They're getting endorsement deals out the wazoo. If you watch TV, I mean, the Phoenix Open, there was like 200 and something thousand people in attendance.
Yeah.
The crowds are coming back in a big way. I don't, it's just the wrong time.
Yep.
If you want to try and splinter the group, you want to hit them when they're down.
Right.
PGA isn't down right now, and they've got some great young players on the way up, and it's a lot of fun. Golf's more, maybe it's my age in some ways, but golf was more exciting than it used to be. I think the players are reacting, getting along well with the galleries. Right. And again, I go to the Phoenix Open, which purists might hate it because it's like a free-for-all down there. But the players love it. They're having a great time. It's getting all the top players now. So there's a good connect there between the fans, the organization, and the players. So Phil's timing probably couldn't have been worse, and basically nobody was going over there with him. And he got also crashed.
I was going to say, doesn't it tell you a lot about the kind of person he is if that KPMG had been with him for years and years and years, and the second they had a chance to drop him, there was like no debate. So I wonder what their relationship was for years, and they were probably like, you know what, we hate this guy anyway. He's a pain in the ass. Now he's a PR nightmare. Just dump him.
Yeah, somebody else dumped him too.
Is that right?
I don't know who it was. I know he lost a couple of key sponsors. And,
Oh, well.
Again, I don't know the man, but a lot of us know what happened with BW.
By the way, a lot of us know.
Phil's not well regarded here.
Yeah, no, he's not. And a lot of us know about Phil's classic moves at sports books when he's won big bets as well. Yep. Not treating the employees the right way.
What goes around comes around.
There you go. A little bit of karma. All right, Dave. What do you got coming up with Wager Talk?
Well, I hope I got some winners coming up.
Okay. Are you guys pounding the videos for March Madness?
Yeah. And they put a special up for the college basketball for me. So if you go to my homepage there, you can see that. I think you save $100 on something, and
Nice.
yeah, it's not bad. And
Well,
it was good tonight. Hopefully it'll be good tomorrow.
you know what? For your sake and for better sake, I hope baseball comes back sooner than later because I know you like betting it and you're good at it. So I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you lose
Yeah, me
after
too.
that.
I don't want to, I'd like to have something to do once basketball and hockey are over. But if not, I'm not doing the KBO anymore. I can't take the hours.
Yeah.
So I'll just take the summer off if they don't play. Well, we got the USFL. Forgot about that.
Oh yeah. For Adam, I don't have much on the betting apps in Arizona. I signed up for Win and DraftKings, and I thought the beginning of the run was pretty good with some good promotions. So I would say DraftKings and try WinBet. Although I think isn't maybe WinBet's backing off a little bit, but yeah. And by the way, Dave, are you going to jump on college baseball at all, or too
No.
hardcore? Yeah.
No, I don't follow it that closely anymore, and you can't just jump in and say, "Hey, I got college baseball for you." No, that's the nice part. If I were younger, I'd have to do it
Right.
to build the brand. At my age, I got all the money I need, and so I'm just going to do the stuff I want to do.
Yep.
And that's it.
The brand is built.
The brand is built, and I'm 69. And I don't need to be forcing hours on myself.
There you go. All right, Dave. Have a good weekend. I'll talk to you next week.